Mr. Speaker, yesterday, in response to repeated questions about what documents would be available for the inquiry into the use of the Emergencies Act, the Minister of Emergency Preparedness indicated that documents covered by privilege, such as the advice of the Justice Department to Cabinet, would not be disclosed. The measures used by this government represent the most significant infringement on the civil liberties of Canadians in a generation. Canadians deserve full transparency. Will they disclose their internal analysis that showed they met the threshold for the Emergencies Act and the Justice Department's private opinion, or are they just going to keep hiding this information from Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
When the illegal blockades forced borders to close, businesses to shut, workers to be laid off, it was Canadians who paid the biggest price. It was only after we got advice from law enforcement that we invoked the Emergencies Act. It was necessary and it worked. We launched a full-scale independent inquiry appointing Justice Rouleau as Commissioner. He has the power to compel witnesses, documents, information, including classified information. Mr. Speaker, we look forward to cooperating with the inquiry to foster transparency, accountability, and incorporating lessons learned so that this never happens again. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives and Canada's Civil Liberties Union were disturbed to see that the Liberals are attempting to control the scope of the inquiry into the Emergencies Act by directing the Commissioner to focus on the actions of the protesters, not the actions of the government. The purpose of this inquiry is not to hold Canadian protesters accountable, but to hold the government accountable when using extraordinary powers. Now, the government has tasked the Commissioner to gather evidence against the protesters, but this begs the question, if the government doesn't already have this evidence, how could they have justified invoking the Act in the first place?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage my honourable colleague to read the order in council, which specifically says that the judge can look into the conduct of police enforcement. So read the order in council. We want to shine a light on the sober events that led to the invocation of the Emergencies Act. I would encourage my colleague to recall that businesses were shut down, that workers were laid off, that residents were terrorized in their own homes, Mr. Speaker. We embrace this inquiry. It's an important hallmark for democracy, and we look forward to cooperating with the judge. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians need answers about the government's invocation of the Emergencies Act. The key question is whether the invocation of these extraordinary powers met the legal requirements of the Act, a question Justice Rouleau and the public inquiry need to answer. In order to do that, Justice Rouleau needs access to documents covered by Cabinet confidence. Will the Prime Minister, will the government waive Cabinet confidence?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Speaker, on this side of the House, we are prepared to shine a light in cooperation with the judge on the circumstances that led to the invocation of the Act. And I would remind my honourable colleagues, particularly from the Conservative Party of Canada, that individuals were arrested as a result of their illegal conduct at borders, which shut down businesses, which required people to be laid off, which had members of this community right here in Ottawa be hostages in their own home, Mr. Speaker. We're prepared to go through all of that in cooperation with the judge so that there's transparency and accountability in conjunction with this commission. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the Emergencies Act is only supposed to be used when there is no other law in Canada able to deal with the situation. It's not clear that threshold was met. When emergency powers are used in a democracy, the question that must be answered is, did the government act lawfully in the invocation of those powers? To answer that question, Justice Rouleau needs Cabinet documents. Prime Minister Harper waived Cabinet confidence in the Vice Admiral Mark Norman case and in the Senator Mike Duffy case. Will the government do the same for this public inquiry?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Encourage my colleagues to read the order in council, which specifically says that the judge has the independent power to compel witnesses, to compel information, to compel other documents, which indeed includes classified information. We want to shine a light on the circumstances that led to the invocation of the Act. We on this side of the House and other members in this chamber are confident that it was the right thing to do, and it worked, Mr. Speaker. But in fulfillment of our obligations under the Emergencies Act, we've launched this public inquiry so that there can be transparency, accountability, and integrity, and so that this never happens again.